When I bought the corner house, the realtor called the front lawn a buffer zone. That should have been my first warning. It was a wide, clean stretch of grass that curved gently toward the main road, perfectly trimmed, freshly seeded, and very much listed on my deed. I didn't think much of it until the shortcuts began. At first, it was just footprints, then bike tracks, then muddy tire marks cutting diagonally across my lawn every morning like a marching route. The HOA board members waved as they did it, smiling like we were sharing a joke. When I mentioned it at the next HOA meeting, Karen, the president, leaned back in her chair and said, "Oh, honey, everyone uses that space." "I don't," I replied. "It's my property." She laughed, not politely, the kind of laugh meant to end a conversation. "Well," she said, tapping her clipboard, "it's always been treated as common access." That phrase, treated as, became the own that installed small signs. They vanished. I planted hedges. They were accidentally trimmed down during a community cleanup. I put up decorative stones. Someone moved them. Every time I complained, I got a warning notice instead. Non-compliant landscaping. Obstruction of neighborhood flow. Flow like I was a clogged drain. The worst part wasn't the damage, it was the entitlement. The Escalade was the symbol of it all. Karen's oversized, spotless SUV that rolled across my grass daily like it was ceremonial. She never even slowed down. Just cut across, phone to her ear, tires flattening weeks of care in seconds. One afternoon, after fresh sod was ruined for the third time in a week, something in me snapped. Not anger, clarity. If polite didn't work, if legal letters were ignored, then maybe visibility would. I decided to make a statement. Not a threat, not revenge. A statement so ridiculous, so impossible to ignore that the HOA couldn't pretend anymore. That's when the medieval theme began. I built nothing functional, nothing dangerous, just a large theatrical lawn installation, wooden beams, ropes, wheels, clearly decorative. I even labeled it Art Installation, Property Boundaries. Neighbors stopped to take pictures. Kids asked questions. The HOA sent me a violation notice within 24 hours. "Remove the structure immediately," Karen said when she stormed over, heels sinking into my lawn. "This is unacceptable." Funny," I said calmly. That's what I've been saying about the trespassing." She scoffed. "We're being dramatic." Good," I replied. "'Cause subtle didn't work. She warned me fines were coming." I told her I'd see her in court. She smiled the way people do when they think they've already won. The installation stayed. The shortcuts continued, closer now, almost defiant. Karen made a show of driving across the lawn whenever people were watching. Then came the neighborhood open house weekend. Cars everywhere, phones out, HOA banners up, and the moment no one expected. A loud crack echoed, not an explosion, just the sharp sound of wood shifting under stress. The decorative structure collapsed inward, exactly as unstable art sometimes does. No one was near it. No one touched it. But the timing? Unforgettable. Karen's Escalade, parked illegally near my property line, took the brunt of falling debris. Not smashed beyond recognition, just enough damage to stop the show cold. The crowd went silent. Karen screamed. And for the first time, everyone looked at the lawn and realized it wasn't common property after all. The A tried to spin it as vandalism. Karen said I'd set a trap. The word echoed through the neighborhood like a bad rumor, but witnesses matter, and this time there were dozens. Police came, inspectors followed. I handed over my permits, my design sketches labeled non-functional, and, most importantly, my property survey. Bright red lines impossible to argue with. The officer nodded slowly. "This is your land," Karen interrupted. But we've always..." He raised a hand. Mom, always isn't a legal term." That was the beginning of the end. Turns out my lawn wasn't the only place the HOA had been cutting corners, literally and figuratively. City records showed no easements, no permissions, just years of assumption and intimidation. Neighbors started talking once they realized someone had finally pushed back without backing down. One couple admitted they'd been fined for blocking a community access on land they owned. Another neighbor said the HOA threatened Leanne's if they questioned boundaries. The pattern was ugly and obvious. Karen's Escalade sat in her driveway for weeks, dented and silent, like a trophy no one wanted. Insurance denied the claim. Improper parking on private property, the letter said. She appealed. Lost. The HOA fined me anyway. I challenged it, won. Then came the lawsuit. I didn't have to say much. The photos, videos, and testimony did the work for me. The judge listened quietly as Karen explained how the lawn had functioned as a pathway for years. Yes, the judge said, tapping the survey. Without consent, the ruling was... The HOA was ordered to stop all unauthorized access immediately. Fines were reversed. Several board members resigned within a month. Karen didn't look at me as she left the courthouse. Afterwards, something unexpected happened. Neighbors started respecting the lawn because they were afraid, but because the illusion had shattered. They saw boundaries differently now. Lines mattered. Ownership mattered. I removed the broken installation and replaced it with a simple fence. Not tall, not aggressive, just clear. The HOA approved it without comment. Sometimes people ask if I regret the spectacle. I don't. Because the catapult wasn't the point. The point was that for years they counted on silence, on people being too tired, too polite, too isolated to push back. All I did was make the problem impossible to ignore, and in a neighborhood where everyone uses it, had become an excuse for everything. Clarity was the most powerful thing I could build.